welcome to the Jacqueline Elliott Show. Today we have Ashley, a very special guest. She has a unique, very unique story that I think you guys are going to love. She actually started this program, which is the Busy Mom Method. Now, Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It was a blast being with you guys all this weekend for the Master Closer Seminar.
Let me ask you something. During that workout, since you are jacked and you have your own program and you work out so hard, what did you think about that?
I loved it. I mean, the energy, it's second to none. When you get, 400 people together for a workout, it's unlike anything else. And, when I'm at home, I don't work out with anybody. I work out by myself, which I prefer it that way. I really enjoy the gym. It's like my zen time. But getting all those people together in a group like that, just the energy, the vibe, just seeing people really push themselves. I mean, I remember we were running up the hill and there was this guy really struggling, and my husband and I, grabbed onto him and we're, come on, let's go. Keep going. And, when we got back to our station, we had a hard station. Evan and I were running the station where we were doing the fireman carry, and we got some, just awesome videos of these guys, really just putting their all in.
I don't think puking everywhere.
They were puking everywhere.
It's very interesting when you get that many people together that are so like-minded and want to change and push to grow.
Yeah.
And getting someone like you that kind of fit really perfectly into our culture to kind of push us. So that was awesome. Thank you for helping with that.
Absolutely.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, there was this guy there. He was probably, 300 pounds, and you could tell he doesn't work out, but he was giving his all, and he was doing the walking lunges because he couldn't do the fireman carry, right. And he was struggling, and I just grabbed onto his hand, and I was lunging with him, and I was just telling him, every step, you're getting stronger, you're getting better, don't stop, keep pushing, you got this, we go together. And it was funny, the shirts were saying, we don't leave anybody behind.
Right.
When we go to war, we all go to war together. Yes. And it was just so cool, just that dynamic. It was beautiful.
It's interesting because you started this program because you wanted to help people.
Yeah.
Obviously, right? You have a whole long career. We're going to get onto this. And you basically gave it all up to start and follow your passion, your dream. Yeah. And it's so interesting that you have that guy that was 300 pounds that wanted it so badly. But if you wouldn't have been there to hold his hand along the way, he would have quit.
Yeah.
He would have been like, you know what? This is not for me. Mm-hmm. I'm not meant for this. I don't have, just all of these different excuses, and really society, teaches you mediocrity and all of that. Yeah. So with your story, you had to make some sacrifices.
Absolutely.
You actually met your husband at work, right? Tell me a little bit about that story. Tell me a little bit about what you did before fitness.
Yeah. So honestly, I started working out when I was in my teens. I was an athlete when I was younger. So I started working out really as an escape method, if I'm being completely honest. My parents got divorced when I was 14 or 15, and it was a really troubled time. Mm-hmm. And I found that I had a gym close by. And so I started working out. I started going to the gym. I could walk there.
Nobody in your family ever worked out?
No.
So you're the first?
Yeah, I was the first. And, my parents were fighting a lot. I didn't really want to be at home. So I started going to the gym, and I developed a gym family. And It was cool because I could go there. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew anything about me. Nobody knew the troubles I had at home and what was going on. They were just happy to be there. They were all working on their health. And I loved it. I loved lifting weights. I was getting stronger. My body was changing. I was able to eat more. It was all these things, but I didn't understand it. I didn't know what I should be doing, how I should be lifting, how I should be eating, what rest should look like. And so I decided I wanted to get educated in it. So, a couple years later, I decided I was going to get certified as a personal trainer. I got a degree in fitness training and human performance. And so I started coaching people. And I loved it. I loved helping people transform and feeling that confidence and that change in their bodies and just seeing that. But I was in college, so I was coaching while I was in college, and I got my bachelor's degree in psychology and business. Mm-hmm. Then I got a master's degree in IMBA at the University of Denver, and I went on to work in sales in the oil and gas industry. And, so I was coaching in person throughout college, and I loved it, but I wasn't making a lot of money.
Of course.
And
it's a very saturated business, it's like...
it really is, and honestly, I don't come from a lot. You know, my parents didn't have a lot to give me. I had everything I needed. You know, my dad did a fantastic job. We had a beautiful home. You know, I never went without, but I didn't have a lot. You know, I didn't have extra. I had a full ride scholarship for college. They probably paid, God, $300,000 for me to go to school for the years that I did and for the study abroad programs that I did. And I was incredibly blessed with that. But I knew when I left college, I had to work. I had to earn it. I had to, you know, I wanted a lifestyle
Did you have siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had to put in the work. And so when I left college, I was like, I don't care what I do. I just want money in the bank. I don't want to have to worry about it, you know? So I went to work in the oil and gas industry. And I made fantastic money. I mean, I was 21 years old and I was making a salary greater than my parents had ever made in a year. And it felt good because I had that financial security.
But before you got to that point, sorry, just backtrack a little bit. I mean, just a little conversation that we had before we started this. You said you went through some pain. You said you wanted to be somebody else and you were escaping all of that.
Yeah.
Let's touch on that pain that you felt that got you addicted to that gym before you started building your wealth and your success later on.
Yeah.
What is it? Because there's a lot of people out there that they go and they have pain, but they resort to other things, right?
Yeah.
What was your example from your parents, for example?
Definitely. If I'm being completely honest, so both my parents were drug addicts and alcoholics, and I didn't have a whole lot of years in my life that both my parents were in a good place together in our household. You know, I was born in Chicago and then we lived in California. My dad was trying to escape Chicago and my mom was trying to escape California. So we ended up in Colorado. And, you know, when we got there, and my dad will tell you this, he was taking my mom to meetings to try and get her sober so she could take care of me because he was like, I'm not going to get sober. I'm not going to give up partying. So he'd drive her to meetings and he'd drop her off and I'd go into the meetings with her. And I grew up in AA. And God bless those people because they saved our lives. But, you know, my dad was taking her with the intention of her getting sober. And she didn't. And, you know, my dad did. And my dad got sober when I was 8. So my mom was sober for the first couple years of my life. Then my dad got sober. Then I had a couple good years with my parents together and them being sober. And then my mom relapsed when I was about 12. And my mom was addicted to prescription pills. And so, unfortunately, there was so many years that she would say, I'm sober, I'm not drinking. But it's like, but are you? You know? So there was always this underlying thing in our household where my mom was like never well. You know, she struggled a lot with anxiety and depression and all these things. But my dad got sober when I was 8. And so we were living together, you know, doing the family thing. And my mom really went off the deep end. And I was about 14 then. And, you know, she went into treatment a couple times. And I remember one of the times that she went into treatment, she came home and my dad asked me, you know, do you want her here? I said, if she's going to keep tearing my life apart, then no, I don't. And so he let me make that choice, whether or not that was something I was willing to have in our household. And, you know, and he knew I was his responsibility. He had to take care of me, and my mom's choices and his choices, those are separate things, but he had to take care of me.
So that made him straighten up.
Yeah. I mean, so he got sober when I was 8.
Because of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, my dad is an incredible man. I love him more than anything. My dad and I are so close. And
That's so cool.
He moved to Idaho to be with us. So we left Colorado before we had kids. And I remember calling and telling my dad, like, Corey and I are getting married. We're going to move to Idaho and we're going to have some kids.
Yeah.
And he said, okay. He said, so when are we moving?
That's so awesome.
And
That's
so he's
cool.
there. But you know what? Like you said, I was running from that. I was afraid of that.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in the rooms of AA and CA and NA. And, you know, I've read the big book. I've done the work. You know, I worked through those things and I saw it. I saw people die in their addiction. And, you know, my mom died of a heroin overdose when I was 7 months pregnant with my son.
Sorry to hear that.
You know, we all get our turn. But it was unfortunate. You know, I waited for my mom to die for so many years. And I finally didn't think it was going to happen anymore. And I got that call.
It's crazy. Did you ever do any drugs?
You know, I smoked weed. I've taken mushrooms, taken acid, but it's like, you know what, it was one of those things that I was young, I was dumb, I was, you know, trying things. I was, honestly, some of it was like, I wanted to prove them wrong, you know, like I didn't grow up with my parents drinking in the household, obviously. So, you know, I drank a lot when I was in college, but it was almost like out of spite, you know, I was like, I'm not like them.
You were angry.
Yeah, I was angry. And I remember telling my dad, I was like, I don't want to be like you guys.
Yeah.
And he's like, then don't be like us. And And I'm not. And honestly, my husband and I have kind of given up drinking altogether over the last couple months, and I love it because I don't want that to be the example we show our kids. You know, like we grew up in this society that alcohol and food have become the acceptable addictions.
Exactly.
You know, everyone says, I just have a glass of wine after a hard night.
Yeah,
it's
exactly. It's escaping, yeah.
Yeah, and I always tell people, I'm like, if at the end of a hard day, you have to come home and drink to feel good, you should probably look at that.
Exactly. Now,
You know?
the question that what you told your dad, hey, I don't want to be anything like you.
Yeah.
Just think of how painful that probably was for your dad, right?
Yeah.
But he was good with it. Like he said, don't be like me,
Yeah.
which is a great answer. Now that you have your own children, how many kids do you have?
2.
You have 2 kids,
Yeah.
right? Now they're little still.
Yeah, my son's 4 and my daughter's going to be 2 next week.
Okay, yes. Now imagine them in their teenage years telling you that. How would you feel if that were you? I mean, that's a touching
yeah.
thing, right? So you had this thing where you had failure in your DNA, and I talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
You know, the example that I had growing up was just not the best, right? And from both sides. And I have an incredible relationship with my father now, just like you. So I think we're very, very similar, but there was a lot of heartache. There was a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of times, I mean, he got remarried. He chose his wife over his kids, all these different things that happened. So I feel like my dad lives with a lot of guilt that I feel like he's like torturing himself now. Like I don't judge him. I love my dad no matter what. I've told him that millions of times, right? But I still feel like he has that sense of guilt because he knows that he lost a lot of time.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm my dad's only daughter as well.
Okay.
Right? I have brothers, but you know, you don't have any brothers or you don't have any siblings, but I'm my dad's only daughter. So I know that he feels with that. So when you talk about your dad and he was able to change, you know, all of that time, you know, and I don't like, I'm not trying to like tell you like how, I just know how he probably feels still. And that's probably why he wanted to move. He's still trying to make it up to you. I feel like my dad is still trying to make it up to me in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
Even though I've forgiven him a long time ago for a lot of different things. But it's just so interesting how sometimes a lot of people wait for something bad to happen before they take action, you know. And it's so cool that you've learned from that. You've made your mess into a message and you built something really, really cool. And most people resort to that escape, which you in turn made that escape such a good thing, fitness, and then did something really cool with it. Okay, so now fast forward a little bit. Okay, now we're back to it. I pulled you back, now I'm pushing you back forward. So now you're working, you're in the oil field, right?
Yeah, so I was working in the oil and gas industry. You know, we were making great money. We were having a lot of fun. We were living in Colorado. And we decided that, you know, we were going to get married and have kids. But, you know, the problem is working in oil and gas. My husband was working 2 weeks on, 1 week off, rotating days and nights schedule. So for 2 weeks at a time, he wouldn't be home at night. And then for 2 weeks at a time, he wouldn't be home all day. And we saw so many men in the oil and gas industry just missing out on everything, like missing out on their kids growing up, their birthdays, the holidays, all these things. And one day we talked about it and we were like, that's not the life we want. We want to be the present parents. We want to be a part of things. We want to be able to, you know, have dinner together every night and be together on the weekends.
So did you step out of working for a little bit when you started having kids?
So what ended up happening is we had those conversations and we decided we weren't even going to try and cross that line of having kids in that situation.
Okay.
So we made the decision that we were going to give up our jobs in oil and gas and we were going to move to Idaho to start a family.
Okay.
And we made that decision and it wasn't taken lightly. I mean, we were making great money working in oil and gas. I loved what I did. I absolutely loved it. I was in sales. I had a very, very good job. Like I loved it, but my husband didn't, you know, he was making good money, but the hours were awful. He wasn't home a lot. So we just pulled the plug. And within 90 days, we got married, sold our house, bought a house and moved to Idaho.
Okay.
And it was crazy. And we moved and the pay cuts we took were astronomical.
So what do those conversations look like? Because a lot of people have a dream, right? But they have those golden handcuffs that they're holding them back, and they're kind of like, hey, you know, I want to do this. I want to pursue my dream. You know, I have a great career. We're making great money. But then they have this golden handcuff syndrome where they're like, you know, I want to do this, but I really don't know how.
Yeah.
Because most people don't have an actual plan on how they're going to supplement that income or what they're going going to have to give up.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes their relationships aren't that strong to do it. And it's just like it takes a big toll on the marriage. It takes a big toll on the family, especially then you have kids. And some people have kids before they make these decisions. All these different things come into play. But what did the conversation look like? What is it like that you had to talk about when you decided, you know what, I'm going all in. I'm getting rid of those golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
I'm believing in myself. You're believing in me. We're believing in our family.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at this future. What did that conversation look like? What did you have to set? Because a lot of people are out there thinking, how can I break these leashes?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it was hard because we were looking at it. We were looking at jobs in Idaho. We were looking at the pay gap we were going to take. Anything. So, you know, oil and gas is kind of a hard industry because it doesn't exist in Idaho. So there was no like comparable position. Like
Why Idaho?
So my husband's from there.
Okay.
So his whole family's there. And in Colorado, it was just my mom and my dad. So we decided, you know, we'd move there. It's safer. It aligns with our morals, our values, our beliefs. We'd have family around. It was important for us to raise our family around family because I didn't grow up around family. And my husband did. And he's very close with his family because of that. But, you know, we decided we were going to make the move, and it was non-negotiable. We just knew that's what needed to happen for us to be a real family and do this thing the right way, and we weren't going to screw it up. I mean, I saw so many people in my life, including, you know, my parents, screw it up in a lot of ways, and I didn't want that. I wanted family to be first. I knew we could make more money. We'd figure it out. So we just started looking for jobs, and I got a position as a global sales operations manager for a company, and it was a great title. For Idaho, it was great pay, but it was probably a $150,000 pay cut. And for my husband, he probably took a $200,000 pay cut when we moved, and he really, like, his title went from being like a manager of a frac crew and running, you know, 40 guys down to just being the manager of like a parts shop. And that was hard. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's hard on the ego. It's hard, you know, with everything you've built, you know, what you've done, all the hard work you've put in. But it didn't matter, you know, and you're right. So many people get stuck, especially in the oil and gas industry, because you get into it young, you're making money, and you can't justify stepping away from it. But it was so non-negotiable for us.
Let me ask you a question, because you seem like you're a very driven, very alpha woman, okay? Now, I tell you this because I can recognize it because I'm the same exact way. And people look at Andy and they think that he's a certain way and he's alpha, but I'm also alpha.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're making these kind of sacrifices, for a woman especially, how do you maintain, or how did you maintain that sense of looking up to your husband when you knew that his income went down and almost his ego? Because once an ego gets hit in the husband, the wife kind of recognizes it, right? Yeah. How did you maintain that support as a wife and still maintain that alpha-ness in you?
You know, for me, I never cared about the money. Like the fact that, you know, we've gone through these phases in our life where it's like he's made more money, I've made more money. To me, it doesn't matter. We're a unit. It's our money. It's our income. It's our household. As long as the bills are paid, I don't care where it comes from, you know? And I think that that's the problem is so many people say, like, did it bother your husband that you were making more than him? And I'm like, no, because if your husband loves you the right way, he should be damn proud of you for that. You know, like,
but most people can't do that.
No, they can't. And, you know, my husband will say this, I am incredibly educated. You know, that was something that I knew I had to do to be successful. My husband went back to school when we got together to finish his bachelor's degree and, you know, to get additional certifications and stuff. And he told me, like, you motivated me to do this. Like, I didn't think I needed to do this, and I did. And I was so proud of him for doing that, because that's not something he needed to do, but he wanted to, and he wanted to prove that to himself. But honestly, it's like, you know, we all come from different backgrounds. Right. Thank God he comes from a nice background. His parents aren't crazy. I mean, we're all crazy, but, you know, his parents are kind. They're together. They're
balance
loving.
Each other out.
Yeah. Oh, God, we balance each other out. I mean, I feel like it's you and, like, Andy's crazy.
Yeah. But we're both crazy.
We both know that you're way crazier because we're women and you're a Latina and I'm Italian. Yeah. So it's like, we're feisty as shit.
Yes,
like,
of course.
But that's the thing is, like, I didn't care where the money came from. And when he was struggling with that, you know, because he was like, you know, I don't want to lose my manager title. I want to have this position. I want to be doing this thing. It's like, you know, I just kept telling him, like, I'm proud of the sacrifices that we're making to build this household, to build this family. And, you know, you asked me, like, how do you get rid of those golden handcuffs? So we went all in. We were like, we have to pay off everything. Right. Like, so we knew we had the income then that we weren't going to have. We paid off everything. And, you know, just started stacking cash in the bank and just pulled the plug and left. And it was just so non-negotiable. There was no question about it.
Right.
We said it. And then I think we I swear we had the conversation, like, the first thing we need to do to move to Idaho is sell our house. And I think we put our house on the market the next day, and it sold that day. And it was such a God thing, but the market in Colorado was crazy. But our house sold, and we left on our honeymoon. And I swear to God, I'm sitting there in Bora Bora on my laptop telling him, we got to fly to Idaho and find a house. Yeah. And God has just this way of working in our lives. And he's always done this for me, because I show up every day like the miracle depends on me, knowing full well it depends on him. And you
went to Bora Bora for your honeymoon?
We did.
That's awesome.
Another story.
Andy didn't ever take me on a freaking honeymoon.
It's about time. Andy, come on.
What's up with
come
that?
on.
I'm gonna
Your wife wants to go to Bora Bora.
I've never been to Bora Bora.
But it's one of those runway trips, Andy, every quarter. But, I'm sitting there we're on our honeymoon. I'm booking flights to Idaho. I had applied for some jobs, and I got an email. Somebody wanted to interview me. So we flew to Idaho, looked at houses, put an offer on a house. I interviewed for a job, got an offer for the job. When we got to the airport to fly back to Colorado, I accepted the job. We went home, we packed up our house, shipped everything down to Idaho in containers. My husband was down in Idaho for a hunting trip. I drove out from Colorado. We unpacked the house. He flew back home because I found a job first. So I moved to Idaho, and he went back to Colorado and stayed with my dad for a couple months while we were making that transition. Yeah. And it was wild. Yeah. I'd been to Idaho maybe 2-3 times to visit. Yeah. And now I'm living in Idaho in this house by myself. I just got married. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? But you know what?
It takes some sacrifices, yeah.
It did. It really did take some sacrifices. And I'll tell you this, our plan was for my husband to keep doing that and traveling because of his schedule until he found a job. And I remember it was December, and Christmas was coming, and I called him and I said, quit your job and get your ass to Idaho. I didn't marry you and move to Idaho to be here alone. Yeah. We'll figure out the money. Just get down here. Yeah. And he quit his job, and he was down there the next week. And, for a couple months, he was trying to find a job. And it was a stressful time. We were trying to get over that change of not having the income we did. We then went to being a single income household for a little while until he found a job. Right. So we were just like going through those growing pains. And it's those challenges that you have in marriage that really, connect you and challenge you. And we were having to have conversations like, we can't just do anything like we used to. Like, we have to be cognizant of this. We have to, budget better. And those weren't conversations that we had to have for the first, 5 years we were together. And now we were having those conversations, and it was real. There were a lot of growing pains. It was very hard. I was thankful we didn't have kids yet. Yeah. And
it's funny how the biggest fight in a relationship is talking about finances. It's always been that. It's always been that.
It's so hard. Money can tear any family apart, and it's awful.
Oh, you're spending too much on this. No, you're spending on that. Oh, you don't know this. Oh, this is for that. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Andy used to go to, the convenience store. He would pump gas and go in there and spend freaking $100. I'm like, what the hell he would buy protein bars, leave them in the car. They're melted, and it's $100 worth of protein bars. And I'm like, dude, we can't do this. So it's like, it's so funny how we have those conversations. We have to go with the highlighter and be like, oh, this is what you're spending extra money on. And he'd be like so mad. But those are the kind of things that you have to do. Those are the kind of sacrifices you need to make in the very beginning. But it's hard when you make it and then you have to tighten down.
Yeah, and you have to stick to it on both sides, and it was something like when we first, before we moved, we could just spend money on anything. And it was like not a thought. And then we moved, and we literally got to the point where it's like every month, you get $500 to spend on what you want. I get $500 to spend on what I want, and that's it. Like, everything else goes into the house bucket. We're paying stuff off. We're taking care of stuff, and that's what we had to do for a while just to like get a grasp on it. Because when you go from that like level of income down to a level that you're not used to, it's like you have to set rules, and that's what worked. Like, we didn't have to fight about money because it was like, you have yours, I have mine. Both of our checks went into the bucket, and then we took our spending money and we did what we wanted. And my big thing is travel. So every month I'd take my $500 and I'd maybe spend $100, and I put $400 aside for my annual girls trip, so I can buy plane tickets and go on a trip somewhere. And my husband, he'd get his money and he'd go buy fishing rods and guns, and because he's a big hunter, fisher, so we're just different, but we had to find that dynamic that was going to work for us, because it was a challenge. And then you throw kids into the mix and everything's so damn expensive.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Yes.
Fortunately, we had a couple years to get used to that before we brought kids in. So
okay, now your program that you started, right? You're going into the fitness journey, because this is still jobs. Like,
yeah.
What motivated you to start?
Yeah, so when I went into oil and gas, after I quit in-person coaching, I was kind of coaching virtually on the side as just like a passion.
Was this during COVID?
So this was years before COVID.
Okay.
So I started coaching. I feel like I was a virtual coach before that was a thing. So I was writing plans for people, writing macros for people. We were catching up over the phone. They were sending progress photos over email. So it was like way back in the day, and I loved it. But then we moved to Idaho and I went into technology. So I ended up working for Intuit. So I was a senior sales productivity analyst. We had 2 kids, and I started to see this shift of all of these women putting themselves on the back burner for their career, for their husbands, for their kids, and not prioritizing themselves. And as a mother, I know I can be such a better, more effective, and happier mother if I put myself first.
Okay.
But
elaborate on that.
So,
because that's a big deal to a lot of women.
Huge.
We're meant to be I don't want to say servants, but we serve our people.
Yeah.
Like we take care of our kids. We want to make sure that they're dressed perfectly, that their clothes match, that like everything is good, that they're fed, and we're sitting around with a bun in our head and we're just eating last and not taking care of ourselves. How did you realize that that's a disservice to your children?
Yeah.
And what made you want to help these women?
So, we can't pour from an empty cup. And I know that women think that's not true. Women give everything they have. We're the natural caregivers. We're the doctor's appointment setters. We're the errand runners, the grocery shoppers, the dinner cookers, the owie kissers, the pick out the clothes, the picture day. Like, we juggle so much. Women carry such a heavy load. Men are supposed to lead the household, but women keep that shit running. We all know that. Like, we're the ones that make sure that the wheels aren't falling off the bus over here. So for me, it was like, it was again, another non-negotiable. I talk about these all the time. I live my life in non-negotiables. That's who I am as a person. And when I met my husband and we talked about having kids, I told him, I said, there are things that I need going into parenthood that are non-negotiable. And one of them was that I needed to make sure that we still dated, that him and I spent time by ourselves with each other, that we prioritized a trip every year together without our kids. And, God bless the souls of our family, because we have, Corey's parents jump in and they help watch the kids.
You have that support.
My dad watches the kids. We have our Aunt Sue watches the kids. Like, we have people to help us, and we're able to do
Everybody
that.
wants an Aunt Sue.
Oh my God, Aunt Sue's the best. I love that woman. I always tell her that she's the mother I should have had, and I don't mean that in a bad way against my mother. Her and I are just like, at this stage in life, I look up to her so much. She's such an incredible woman. But
what would you say to those people that don't have that support, that want to do that? Because this mommy guilt is this is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
Once you start trying to put yourself first, you're going to get all of the people around you telling you, hey, you should be doing this. Me being Hispanic, they're like, well, you have to have the 3 meals a day for your family, and you make sure you take care of your husband. You got to make sure you leave yourself last, in other words, because that's what we're trained to do, right? And you have that mommy guilt. Other moms, that like, hey, I've never been the mom that's like, oh, I'm going to make sure my kids are in soccer, and I'm going to make sure I drive the minivan, and I'm going to do this, for my kids. I've never been that, but that mommy guilt is there.
It's real.
It is real.
Mom guilt is so real. And, the women that I coach every day, I have to coach them to it, because they'll say, like, if I'm taking, that time away from my kids, or that's time I should be giving to my kids. And I always tell people, like, you taking care of you is giving to your kids. Because if you take care of you first, you're being a better example. You're showing them what healthy looks like. You're showing them what happy looks like. One of the single most indicators of a child's success, happiness, and health is how happy, successful, and healthy their mother is. As mothers, like, everything we do reaches into our family. How we show up and feel and talk about ourselves and think about ourselves and teach our kids to think about themselves. Like, it all just overflows into the family. And if you show up and you're cooking healthy meals for yourself, you're cooking healthy for your family, if you're exercising, they're seeing that as something that they should do. And the problem is, women think, like, if I go to the gym, I'm taking away from my family. And it's like, no, you're teaching your kids that they should be doing that too.
People don't get that.
No.
People don't get that. And it's also like, I want you to touch on this because I think it's really important. You mentioned briefly what you're cooking for yourself and what you're eating, but also I see a lot of people that are starting to get good with their fitness, and then they're letting their kids order off the kids menu, and it's chicken nuggets and greasy food and all this other stuff. They're feeding them all that stuff.
Yeah.
How do you, I mean, your kids are little,
Yeah.
but what do you feed your kids, and how does that look?
You know, we have a rule in our house. Our kids eat what we eat. And I post about it all the time on my Instagram. I'll post pictures of like what we're eating and what our kids eat, because you know, and this is terrible, and some people are going to disagree with this. If your kids are overweight, it's your fault. They don't decide what they eat, you know, and kids who are super picky eaters, you know, I know that there's always the one kid that won't eat something. That's fine. But it's like, if every day you're serving your kid chicken, broccoli, rice, salmon, asparagus, that's all they're going to know. The problem is when you compromise and you think, I only have 10 minutes, I'm going to feed them microwave chicken nuggets every day. Well, of course, that's all they're going to want to eat because that tastes good. You know, like to them, that's what their palate is. Yeah. But, you know, our kids have always I started feeding my kids real food at 4 months old, and they switched over, you know, to mainly food, and they eat every single thing we eat. If we have, you know, every week I make probably pork chops, chicken breast, steak, salmon, shrimp, and they eat that. Like what I cook for dinner is what they eat, and we all eat it together as a family. We don't make special meals.
Yeah, that's great.
And I have clients all the time that tell me, I'm getting fat because I'm eating my kids' leftovers. And I ask them, then why don't you feed your kids better food?
Yeah.
You know, it's like if my kid's leftover is ribeye, asparagus, and rice, then by all means, I'll eat the rest off that plate. But, you know, if he's eating Cheetos, French fries, and chicken nuggets every single day for dinner, which don't get me wrong, I will feed my kids chicken nuggets and French fries and Cheetos if they want them, because we have to learn that balance. You know, it's not.
Yeah, they're going to leave you and they're going to go to the friend's house and they're going to get that there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, why not, you know, and I'll sit down and I'll eat that with them sometimes because I want to show them that balance. You know, it's not about, you know, unfortunately people look at people like you and I and they think, oh, you must eat healthy all the time. It's like, no, it's about what we do most of the time, not some of the time. You know, I'm the kind of person when my kids...
You've earned it.
Yeah, well...
It's a difference.
Yes, and you know what? You don't have to even earn it because, you know, I always tell people, like, you're not a dog. You don't need a treat. You know, but it is that mentality where it's like, it's really about balance. We're here for a good time, not a long time. You know, I like Chinese food. I like pizza. And if we're going to eat those things every once in a while, then that's something that we do as a family. It's something we enjoy. Yeah. You know, it makes me feel terrible because I don't eat it very often, but you know.
Because you already know how you feel with the other food. So yeah, when you do eat pizza, it weighs you down. You feel tired and you're like, I don't like feeling that way. And you feel guilty for it. It's the truth, right?
Exactly. But that doesn't mean we can't do it. You know, my husband and I, when we were here for the event over the weekend, we had a date night because, you know, the kids aren't here. So we went to a Diamondbacks game and we ate a hot dog at the ballpark because you should, you know, it's a baseball game. So it's one of those things where people, again, they look at us and they're like, oh, you must eat healthy all the time. And it's like, no, but most of the time I do, and that's why I can look like this and have those days. And it's not going to throw me off track. It's not going to ruin my progress. That's the thing, is people get into this very obsessive mindset when it comes to health and fitness, and they think I have to be perfect all the time. It's like, no, because if 80% of the time you're eating good foods, you're fueling your body properly, you're doing what you need to, you're getting your workouts, and you're making that non-negotiable, then those other days don't matter. They're not going to ruin all of your progress.
What would you say to those people? Because, I mean, I notice, I'm a people watcher. Like, I notice. You have an incredible physique. I mean, you have a lot of muscle tone. I mean, you have all of this, right? But there's a lot of people. Have you ever thought about the people that maybe don't approach you because you're that way? And you see somebody that's maybe overweight that wants to change, but she's like, I'm never going to be like you. I'm never going to, like, approach you because she can't relate to that. How do you touch, or how do you have these people start or even want to start? Because the hardest thing, it's not like, okay, I'm not going to teach you. You can talk about you running 10 miles, and that's not hard. What's hard is running that first half mile, right? Yeah. What's hard is putting your shoes on. What's hard is getting going and understand that you're qualified for it. Yeah. What would you say to those people that feel like they can't be like you, but they want to start, but they're almost intimidated because you're a beautiful girl, you're fit, right? And you have a program, and you really love people, which makes you very unique in what you do, and that's why you're successful. But how would you tell these people, hey, you know what? Like, we talk about self-love a lot. We talk about like wanting to start. I have conversations with people all the time that they're like, man, I never thought that having a conversation with you, like, and now I want to do this. Now I know that putting myself first, like you said, is so important, so I can be a better mom, have more energy. But also, I want my husband to admire me. I want him to look at me with those love eyes. I want my son to look at me better. You know, and a lot of people are like hidden in their problems. They might have had a death in the family. They might have had a lot of people, you know, that they lost, or addictions, or lots of different things. And they're just like, I'm so lost. And I put on the weight. And I feel embarrassed almost to approach a girl like Ashley that looks like she's got her shit together. Like, what would you do to tell these people, hey, you know what, like, you're qualified?
Yeah. You know, we all have our problems. And I will say that I've had quite a few women tell me, I don't want to coach with you because I feel like you can't relate to me being overweight.
Right.
Because I've never been, you know, very overweight. So it's like, it's not something I've struggled with. But what I always tell those people is, you want to coach with somebody who's dialed in the lifestyle, the habits that you aspire to, because it's not a crash diet. It's not a gimmick. It's not a quick fix. What I do, I've been consistently doing for 18 years. And what I tell people is, like, we all have to start somewhere. You know, you and I could eat exactly the same way, lift exactly the same way, and we're still going to look different. You know, you and I have very similar body types, but we're still not going to look the same no matter what. And anybody who looks at me and thinks, I want to look like that, but I can't. It's like, no, you're going to look like a better version of you, you know? And it's not about me, you know? I want to teach them how to do this thing the right way. I want to help them build that confidence. I want them to learn how to do this thing in a way that feels good and is sustainable, and not these crash diets, not this Ozempic kick, not, you know, these crazy, like, zero carbs, starve yourself,
Not
1,200
sustainable,
calorie
yeah.
diets.
Yeah.
No, it's not about that.
Tell me about some of the people that you helped. Okay, so maybe like they can't relate to you, but they can relate to somebody that was that person that's overweight.
Yeah.
Not just in physique, not just in, you know, them looking incredible, or not just, you know, them fitting into their clothes that they wore when they were in high school, but how they changed as people.
Yeah.
Maybe in their confidence, in like their career, or maybe their relationship, because I've seen a lot of transformations. Like, tell me maybe a story that moves you, that motivates you, that makes you be like, hey, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah, you know, I have 2 clients right now that I am so damn proud of. One of them, her name is Sandra, and she's an engineer. She's a brilliant woman. She's so kind. She's got, you know, she loves God. She's just, it exudes from her. Like, I love chatting with her because everything is so supportive, but she'd gained quite a bit of weight. And when she came to me, she's like, I'm just so lost. She said, I have over 100 pounds I want to lose, and I don't even know where to start. She said, I talked to doctors. They told me I can't do it. They tried to put me on medications. They wanted to do all these things. And it just breaks my heart to hear that, because it's like, did they ever just try and tell you to exercise, to put on some muscle, to try and, you know, eat better, and she's like, no, they didn't. They went straight to trying to prescribe me things. And she started working with me, and she has lost 42 inches in 14 weeks. And she started with a 12-week program with me because she was like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. Let's try 12 weeks. And I said, okay. And every week, down weight, up muscle, down weight, up muscle.
How do you measure all that? Like, I'm just curious, you know, with
yeah.
your, 'cause there's so many fitness programs out there. Like, what makes you unique? Obviously, I can sense your heart. I know how passionate you are, and that's exactly what people need, because there's so many things out there, that's so many choices that people get so confused. But I can tell that you have that passion, you have that drive, you really believe in this. And you have an incredible concept, because a lot of people don't target those busy moms, you know, that they think, hey, you know what, they always put themselves last. But what does that program look like, and how do you measure that success?
Yeah, so my clients, it's all run through an app. I coach virtually. I have clients all over the world, all across the states. And, you know, I custom build their workouts for them to fit their life. You know, not everyone comes in and is like, I'm ready to work out 5 days a week. Some people come in and they're like, I've never worked out. Like, I've never done this.
This is good.
And I say it's all built on incremental habits. Like, I meet each client where they're at, and we go from there, because, you know, what you're capable of and what I'm capable of and what the next person is capable of is different. So it can't be a cookie cutter program. It has to be meant for them and their struggles, their needs, any limitations they have, what equipment they have. Are they going to work out at home? Are they going to go to a gym? You know, do they have no equipment? I can help them all because it's all science-based. It's not my opinion, and that's why I believe in it so much. It works for everybody. It's physiologically impossible for my clients not to get results because it's not my opinion. I'm not some 20-year-old girl on the internet bopping around saying, do this and you'll look like me. It's like, no, we're going to build muscle. It's going to increase your metabolism and you're going to lose body fat. And not only that, as women, one of our greatest risks is getting osteoporosis. And the only way to combat that is through strength training. So we're going to make your bones stronger. We're going to make you functionally independent. As you age, you're not going to be falling down and lacking balance because you're going to strengthen up your core now. We're going to do all the things that you need to live a long, good, healthy life, not just lose weight. It's not just about weight loss. I'm not a weight loss coach. I'm a fat loss and muscle growth coach. And my goal is to help women regain their confidence, get back into a body that feels good, get healthy, and live a long, healthy life because this is a lifestyle. It's not a crash diet. It's not a quick fix. I want to teach these women how to do this and how to do it the right way. And I want them to never need a coach again.
Do you scare people because of your muscles? I'm just
I'm
just saying because there's a lot of women
Yeah.
that, and I've heard them say, like, because I have muscle, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, hey, you know what? I want to get in shape, but I
I
don't
don't
want
want to
muscles
look like
her.
you. Yeah.
Like seriously, like,
People say that.
and it's totally okay because
Yeah.
people have different goals. But do you get people that you scare away?
Yeah, so I have women all the time tell me, I want to look lean and toned, but I don't want to look quite as muscular as you. And I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. You know why? Because it takes years to do this. You know, muscle growth is not a quick thing, unfortunately. And you know, those women that always say, I don't want to get bulky.
Yeah.
And it's like, honey, do you know how much food, time, energy, and how many years it takes for those Olympic athletes to look like that, to build that kind of muscle? Like, you're not going to accidentally wake up looking like Arnold tomorrow because you lifted a few weights. You know,
And
it
it's
takes
an excuse for a lot of people not to start. Well, I don't want to really look like that. You think that what you doing like just a little bit more cardio and you lifting a little bit of weight, you're going to get like that.
Yeah.
People are just looking at excuses to not even start, I
Yeah.
think, right?
Definitely. They're looking at excuses, but also they're fearful of what they don't know. And you can't blame them, you know? So I always tell people, it's like, you're not going to accidentally look like me. It's a slow, gradual process, and it's going to take years. But again, the goal isn't to look like me. Like, as people's bodies start to transform, they start, you know, I always hear these women get so excited. They're like, I can see my biceps. I can see my delts. I'm starting to see triceps. Like, I'm coaching Gia, you know, here, and
She's looking good.
oh my gosh, she's so proud of her muscles.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
she's naturally such like a,
She's tiny.
she's so tiny. And now she sends me like gym pics flexing, and she's having Brendan take videos of her at the gym to show like how vascular she's getting, and she's so proud. But
No, but she's very feminine looking.
Yeah,
and
and
it's
she's-
great. Like and it's funny because I have clothes, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm gonna give this to Gia because she fits in it so well,
Yeah.
and she's petite, but she's getting very like her confidence has gone up tremendously.
Yeah.
She smiles all the time. It's so crazy how just that belief that she's gotten just from being on your program and how that's changed their relationship. And it's just an amazing thing. And I think that's a lot of things that people don't really talk about. It's not
Yeah.
just about looking or feeling a specific way. It's how you're carrying yourself, how that increases just your lifestyle. It's just crazy.
definitely. And you know what, it was really cool because I was talking to Brendan today, Gia's, you know, boyfriend, husband, fiance, whatever they are. And he was telling me that he was so proud of her when she signed up because, you know, he's here, he's working on himself. And what I always tell women is, unfortunately, you know, I get on these calls with these women who are like, I hate what I look like in pictures. I don't feel good. I don't have energy. I'm not confident. I don't want to be naked around my husband. And then they'll get out, you know, they'll get to the end of the call and they'll be like, well, I have to talk to my husband. And I'll say, well, what do you think your husband's going to say? Do you think he's going to say, no, I don't want you to be healthy. No, I don't want you to look better. I don't want you to be a good influence on our kids. I don't want you to be confident. It's like, your husband better not say that. That'd be awful if that's what your husband says, and that'd be really unfortunate. But the problem is, these women will get off the phone with me, and I know they're going to their husband, and they're saying, oh, I want to do this thing, but it's going to cost this much, and they talk themselves out of it.
Yeah.
They can't be honest with their husband and say, I don't like me right now. I don't like who I've become because I'm a wife and I'm a mother and I'm putting myself on the back burner and I need to prioritize myself. Women don't feel like they have that power to say that. They feel like it's selfish.
Yeah.
And it's not. Like, if you went to your husband, you know, all these women who are really struggling with their confidence and their weight, and they said, you know, husband, I want to feel better. I want to feel good and look good naked around you.
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
a reason why they're reaching out.
Yes.
Something's telling them that they're missing something in their life.
Yes.
And if you can provide an answer, If they reach out, it's because something is wrong,
Yeah.
right? And that's the feeling that they have to keep alive when they talk to the husband. So if you can motivate them to tell them, hey, what is the reason why you reached out?
Yeah.
Is it because this, or this? And it's going to be all three of them,
Yeah.
obviously, right? If not, they wouldn't have reached out. It's like when people reach out to us.
They need help. They're missing something.
Yes, they're missing something. They're not exactly where they want to be. So our job is to discover their holes,
Yeah.
right? And help them basically solve their problems.
Yeah.
Your job is to help them feel better about themselves. But if they can't transfer that emotion, you're exactly right. If they can't transfer that emotion to their husband and tell them that way, then they're not valuing themselves and they're going to stay the same.
And it's unfortunate because, you know, we only get one go at this life. We deserve to feel confident and comfortable in our own skin. And, you know, the average American spends $18,000 a year on unnecessary expenses, you know, things that they don't need.
More.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot more. But health is an investment, and being able to, you know, when you pay for a program, when you pay for a coach, you're paying for the shortcut to your goals. You know, everybody should have a coach. I have 2 coaches, you know, and I pay them a lot of money every month. Then I pay to come here because Andy and this team are solid coaches, and you're a solid coach, and we want to be around people who inspire us and take us to that next level. And, you know, self-investment is so important, but it's like if you're waking up every day in a body that you hate, if you refuse to take pictures with your kids because you don't like what you look like, if you lack energy to go play with your kids, there's no price for that.
Right.
You know, to get that back, to be able to show up for your kids and be that person that they need.
Why do you think people quit so much on fitness? Like, because this is one of those things. Somebody has started a fitness journey once in their life, at least once in their life, right? But they've given up on themselves. Why do you think everybody quits on themselves so easily?
So I think it's a handful of things. For one, people try and do it on their own, and they don't know what they're doing. You know, when you pay for a coach, you're paying for the shortcut. You're paying for the, you know, we have millions of free resources online on how to get in the best shape of our lives. There's millions of diet plans, exercises, apps, you know, Ozempic, weight loss pills, all these things, but it makes it really hard to know what's right for you. And the thing is, you know, people will say, I'm going to try and do this on my own. Well, they pick the wrong program. They're not lifting heavy enough, or they're not, you know, they're doing too much cardio. They're not eating the right way, and they make no progress. You know, I had a client who came to me month after month for probably 4 months, and she's like, I want to do it, but it costs too much. I want to do it, but it costs too much. And she's like, I'm just going to try and do it on my own. I gave her some tips. She's like, I'm going to watch all your videos. I'm going to try and do it on my own, and I'll talk to you in a few months. And I said, okay, that's fair. You know, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here helping women achieve these goals. So you come back when it doesn't work. And that's not me trying to be mean, but it's like, if you're 35 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and you haven't figured it out, you're not going to figure it out.
If you wanted it badly enough, you've already have been there already. That's just the truth.
And, you know, if I'm being completely honest, I think part of the problem is there's a lot of bad coaches out there. There's a lot of people out there who are going to give bad advice. So I always feel bad for those women who are like, I paid thousands of dollars for this coach. And I had a woman the other day, she told me she paid a coach to train her, and the coach ran off and used the money for her wedding and didn't do anything for her. And I'm like, well, that's unfortunate, but I'm just a voice at the other end of the phone, and they don't know that they can trust me. And that's the thing, that's the hard part, is like you're betting on yourself. It may be a gamble, but I know what I bring to the table for my clients, and I know my clients get results. And if you were to talk to any of my clients, they'd tell you, I talk to Ashley every day. She's there when I'm struggling. She's there when I'm winning. She's there, you know, to give me the blueprint. She lays it out for me. She makes it easy. I show up every day and I know exactly what I should do. There's no question about it. When I'm having a hard time, we get on the phone and we talk about it and we try and figure it out. Is it mindset? Is it the workouts? Are you struggling with something? Do you feel like you don't understand it? Yeah, because we're all different. And that's why I really prefer the one-on-one coaching approach, is because we all do need help in different ways. You know, I have clients who are going through things and they need somebody to just love on them. You know, I have clients who have never worked out before and they need somebody to check their form on every exercise, and that's fine. You know,
Some people just want somebody to believe in them.
Some people just need that. They need somebody to say, you got this. And I know they do. My clients get great results because they have the accountability, they have the support. I'm in their corner every day telling them, you got this. And, you know, my clients do accountability reports every week. And every week I ask them, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Why is this important to you? And I love it. These women will say, I just want to be able to play with my kids. I want to be able to run again. I want to be able to climb up the stairs. I had one that said, I don't want to have to worry about needing an extender in the airplane on the seatbelt. I had one say, I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me if I don't do this. I'm afraid to turn into my parents, who are struggling with high cholesterol, high blood pressure. And that's my fear. I mean, if I'm being honest, people ask me all the time, how do you stay motivated to do this? Motivation's bullshit. It'll only get you so far. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of who I turn into if I don't do this. I'm not a nice person if I don't work out. Like, my husband will tell you, like, go to the gym, because it makes me a better person. I'm better for having gone and used my body and appreciating it and being grateful for it. And you know what? I'm afraid of the alternative. I'm afraid to become overweight and not be able to play with my kids. I'm afraid that one day I might be a grandma and I can't get up off the floor or get on the floor to even play with them. I go to playgrounds with my kids and I climb with them and I go down the slides and we do the monkey bars. And, my husband and I went to this trampoline park not too long ago with our kids, and we're climbing up on these things and we're jumping into the ball pits off of these 12-foot walls with the kids. And I look at these other kids who are watching us and they're looking at their parents like, will you do that with us?
Yeah.
Well, this one kid, he looked at us and he looked at his mom and dad and was like, will you do that with me? And they're sitting over there on their phone. They're not even watching him. They're not playing with him. And they look up and they're like, no, we're not going up there.
Yeah.
I never want to have to tell my kids no, because I didn't make good choices. I want to be able to show up and do everything with them.
That's incredible. It kind of reminds me, and I think a lot of people need to know this. A lot of times, people have things that they're doing all the time. One of the most impactful things, me focusing on my fitness and putting myself first was one of the most impactful things I've done for myself, but not just for me, because I don't really do that for me. I really don't. Because I really think that if I were to just do it for myself and I didn't have anybody watching me, I really would probably not do it. I'm just being honest. I'm just being, because that's not my drive. It's not my why.
Yeah.
But I did realize that when I was taking care of my kids and I was putting them, doing everything for them, they weren't looking at me with those eyes of admiration, just like those other kids were looking at you with eyes of admiration, and they wanted you to be a part of that jumping and doing the climbing and all that other stuff. I felt like my kids weren't doing that. They were looking at other heroes. They were looking at other people they wanted to emulate. They wanted to, be like other people. When Andy would get home from work or whatever, he'd give me a kiss. Hey, babe, how's it going? He'd get the kids, he'd throw them up in the air, and I'd be like, what am I? Who am I?
Yeah.
And then when I started focusing on myself and putting myself first, all of a sudden, hey, what is she doing? Oh my gosh, she looks nice. I started taking showers, fixing my hair. I started doing different things. Yeah. And it was a whole different shift. My kids were looking at me instead of looking at people on the internet. And now they wanted to be like me.
Yeah.
They wanted me to be that person for them. I know that my son, I'm being an example of what he's going to look for in a woman. He's going to look for somebody that's confident. He's going to for somebody that loves herself, but also that has that caring heart and takes care of people, but can also take care of herself first.
Yeah.
Right? She's going to be an amazing wife because I had to turn into that, right? My daughters, they value themselves, that if they go get hurt or if a guy does something to them, they're going to love themselves first, and they're not going to crumble in their first heartbreak because they love themselves, right? That's why it's so important. And you're talking about such amazing things. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that impact.
Yeah.
They don't really understand how putting yourself first is not you being selfish.
No.
It's you giving an example for those people that you love to look up to some example of what you want them to be like.
Absolutely.
And I just want to shake people and I'm just like, hey, you've got it wrong.
Yeah.
Do you want your daughter to look up to you, or you want them to look up to somebody else?
Yeah.
You need to be that person, right? So I just know that a lot of people trick themselves, or it's hard for them to put themselves first. But really, by you putting yourself first, you give a better example to everybody else. And I had to learn the hard way.
Okay.
I had to learn with my kids. I had to learn with my husband. You got all your stuff dialed and you had your non-negotiables before it happened. But me as a mom, having my kids first and then learning later, because I didn't really start working out until I was almost 40.
Okay.
I'm 42. Really, I didn't have muscle. I was just a skinny girl, whatever, and I gained the weight. I was the flabby girl, whatever. But I realized that I needed to change and I needed to be that example for my kids. So just sharing my experience and how that really helped me. I think a lot of women like need to know, like, hey, you need to start. You need to put yourself first.
And I think that's really important to acknowledge, because you weren't overweight.
No.
You know, you weren't coming from that place. You were skinny, you know, but you weren't exercising. And I think that there's this like mindset, you know, society has done women a disservice and made them believe in order to be healthy, they need to make themselves smaller.
Right.
I don't believe that. I want women to get strong. I want them to put on muscle. I want women to not have to ask their husband to carry the 50-pound bag of dog food into the house. You know, I want them to be able to help and do things, you know, like I joke with my husband all the time, because we'll be doing stuff at home and we're lifting things and carrying things, and I always tell him, you're lucky I'm not weak, because who would be helping you with this? You know, but it makes me proud to be able to say that my husband can come ask me for help and I can show up. You know, like, we don't have to call the neighbor's husband to come help my husband. We can move the couch upstairs. We can move the stuff. And, you know, it's honestly, this is where I'm going to take a step back, is say, I had to learn how to stop doing so much.
Yeah.
You know, in becoming a wife, I had to take that step back and let my husband be the man, because my dad raised me to be tough as nails. You know, there's nothing I can't do, because my dad raised me that way. And, you know, he was like, you will never have to say you need a man for anything. But then it was funny, because he raised me that way, and he loves my husband. My dad said he's the only man he's ever met that he liked. And he's like, you know, my husband's an amazing person. But I remember we got married and we moved in together, and my dad said, now you need to let him do what he needs to do.
Right.
Because you're strong and you're tough and there's nothing you can't do, but now you need to let him. Yeah. And that was hard for me.
It's true.
But I mean, as a mother, you're right. Like, I always tell people, do it so your kids can say, I want to be strong like mom.
Yeah.
I look up to my mom, you know, because my mom was, when things were good with my mom, she was an incredible woman. She's brilliant. God, my mom was so smart. And my dad will tell you that, sorry.
It's okay. No,
I get that from her, but you know, my dad made me tough, and I'm grateful for it. I'm so grateful that he made me tough, because I know what, you know, my mom was a strong woman.
Yeah.
She could do anything. And I loved that about her. My mom was always muscular. She always had, you know, biceps, and she looked good. Yeah, my mom, well, she did a lot of concrete work when she was younger. She wasn't very good to her body, but she was strong as hell, you know, and we'd always joke, you know, strong back, weak mind is what we'd say in our house. And, you know, but my mom was brilliant, and she was, but she hated her body, because she grew up in that generation where, you know, people would call her a bull dyke because she was muscular, and she would always say, like, I hate my arms. And that was unfortunate, because I looked just like her. From the neck down, my mom and I were twins.
Really?
Like, yeah, and, you know, I had to learn to love my body
So you have good
despite,
genetics.
yeah, and I had to learn how to love my body despite the fact that she hated hers, because I knew there was no changing it. Yeah. So I owned it. I was like, you know what,
good.
I'm strong, I'm tough. And, you know, for a lot of years, because I was an only child, and, you know, my mom wasn't around for a lot of high school, I felt like I thrived off of being that tough girl.
Yeah.
And as I became a mother,
Did you
I
get
realized,
into fights in school?
no, you know, so just to backtrack, I have my black belt in Shell and Kempo.
Oh.
So
Nobody messed with you.
No, nobody messed with me, but more than anything, I avoided it because I didn't want to hurt anybody. You know, that wasn't my goal.
Yeah.
But, where was I going with this?
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So I was always that tough girl. I was always trying to prove something. I was always, and I feel like it was like out of spite, because I was frustrated. I was angry. You know, my life was in shambles for a lot of years, and I felt like I was just trying to show everybody how strong I was and how tough I was. Right. And I became a mother, and I took a step back, and I said, I don't want to be the strong one anymore. I don't want to be hard. I don't want to be tough. I don't want to be resilient. I want to be the kind one. I want to be the loving one. I want, you know, I always admired people who would say, like, you know, how good of a heart somebody had, and how kind they were, and how genuine they were, and how, you know, if you called them, they would show up. And I decided, you know, I don't want to be tough anymore.
Why not both?
You know, but I think there's a difference between having to be tough and being strong.
Right.
And I'm a strong person.
Yes.
Like, I'm resilient. There's nothing I can't do. There's nothing you can't throw at me that I'm not going to figure out, because I've got God on my side. Yeah. You know, I'm good. But I didn't want to have to prove it to anybody anymore. Mm-hmm. I have nothing to prove to anybody. Yeah. Everything I've ever said I was going to do, I accomplish. Yeah. It's just who I am.
It's more about proving. I think a lot of people are do things, and that motivates them just to prove that people wrong. Yeah. And I think that goes only so far, unless you are like, it's like Patrick Bet-David has a book that choose your enemies wisely, and wisely, and you should be changing your enemies and they keep proving them wrong.
Yeah.
You have to change them as you go and as you grow. But for most people, they want to prove somebody wrong.
Yeah.
But then they don't use it in the right way.
Yeah. And for years, I think that's what I was chasing. I wanted to prove to everybody that I could get the degrees, I could make the money, I could buy the houses, I could have everything I wanted, I could travel to all these places. And I did that.
Was it motivate or anger? More madness?
I don't know. I was angry for a lot of years. I've dealt with anger for a lot of years because of just the way I grew up. Being angry was okay. Like there was a lot of yelling in my house. There was a lot of anger in my house. And when I became, when Corey and I got together and I became a wife and a mother, I didn't want that. I don't want, we got to fight fair. I don't want to fight just to fight. I want to solve things. And that was a hard thing with my husband and I, because he's so non-confrontational and I want to fight. Yeah. I want to figure it out. I want to resolve it.
You're so much like me.
Oh my God, crazy. I swear you and I are like the same person, but he's so calm and collected, and I would get angry. I'm like, just fight with me.
Yeah, let's get it over with.
We got to figure this out, because my dad always told me, if you're not fighting, somebody's lying.
It's the truth, because they hold it in, and then all of a sudden you wait 10 days, and then you're like, well, I knew you were freaking pissed. Yeah. We could have solved this in 5 minutes.
And then it's that death by 1,000 paper cuts, like you were saying. It's like, if we're holding that anger in and we're not talking about it, that doesn't mean it's gone. Yeah. I want to get angry, and I want to tell you I'm angry, and I want to tell you why, and I want you to tell me why, and let's talk it out, and let's move the fuck on.
Exactly.
Honestly, because
best relationship advice right here.
Yes. And we're here for relationships and fitness,
Everything. I mean, we can have it all.
But it's all encompassing.
Yes.
Because I take care of myself, I could be a better wife, I could be a better employee, I could be a better friend, I could be a better daughter, I could be a better mother. I have to choose me first, because if I don't like me, how am I supposed to take care of anyone else? How am I supposed to like anybody else?
How can anybody else be proud of you if you're not proud of yourself?
Exactly. And that's what I want these women to feel. I want them to be confident. I want them to feel good. And I'm not saying that I want them to look like me. That's not the goal.
Well, you're a fitness coach, but you're also a life coach, because if you teach them how to be better people, I mean, fitness is only a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And I love your heart. I love how passionate you are. I love that you have that pain that you've turned into something beautiful, and how you can relate to so many people, even though you've never been obese, overweight, and you have all this huge transformation in your body. You've been around so many different things. I think that the people that have been hurt the most can actually help the most people.
Yeah.
And you've proven it, and you've built wealth, and you've lost stuff, and you've done a lot of things along the way, and that's made you that resilient person. But now, I mean, I know you're going to be an excellent mom, because you've got it figured out. You've got it figured out, and you love yourself. You're going to be a good example. Your daughter's going to look up to you. She's not going to look up to anybody else but you, which is great. That's amazing. And you have a good relationship at home. You honor your husband. I mean, I just love you even more just by talking to you. So I think that you have a very successful business just because you have that heart in it and you care. So for somebody, I know that we touched on so many different things. For those people that are out there that need that help, that are like, hey, you know what, Ashley, like, I can relate to her in so many different ways, or I know she can help me because she has that heart, and I don't even know where to start. Where would you suggest they go?
Reach out to me. Okay. Honestly, like,
how do they reach out to you?
On my Instagram, I message every one of my followers, because I want to hear what they're struggling with. And people will say, like, is this really you? And I'm like, yeah, I message everyone, because even if they don't need help, even if they're not ready to make that commitment, even if they don't want to coach, I want to know what women are struggling with, so I can post about those things, so I could share that knowledge. Like, getting a good coach is gaining the knowledge they have, and I have so much knowledge up here from having done this for so many years. So I'd say, reach out to me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. You could text me. We could.
What's your number?
720-495-6919. Go ahead and text me. If you want help, if you want to take your health and fitness to the next level, if you're tired of feeling, unfulfilled, unhappy, if you hate the pictures with your kids, if you can't play with your kids, if maybe you're not even overweight, maybe you just want to do something. You want to feel better.
Boost of confidence.
Yeah, that confidence. You want to feel good in your clothes. You want to feel good naked. I always tell people, like, people joke with me. they'll say, are you competing for something? And I said, no, I just like to look good naked all the time.
That's
you know,
what I
it's
say.
like,
Same thing. It's funny.
Honestly, it's like, that's needs to be my tagline. My husband said, look good naked.
But
But
that's true, because you look at it, and I always talk about this example. I'm like, hey, when you first moved in together, when you first got married, you used to look at each other with love eyes. You want to bring that spark back into your relationship. You want to look at each other. You want to
Yeah.
keep that newness going on. Start loving and taking care of yourself, and that will never fade away. That's
Yeah.
the best way to get it. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. And, I don't just coach mothers. I coach all women, anybody who needs help. But I coach some men too, and I coach couples, and I have experience with all of that. But what I will say to the mothers is, we sacrifice so much of us to become mothers. And so many mothers get to the other side of it. I have a client right now, Natasha. She's got 3 kids. She's a stay-at-home mom. Her husband and her run a ranch in Idaho. And I got to meet her in person last week. And she's just the sweetest lady. And I just adore her. And she did a 12-week program with me. And I think she lost like 11 pounds and like 27 inches or something. And she was like, I had no idea I could do this. And I asked her to eat more. I asked her to work out 30 minutes a day, like 5 days a week. It's 1.5% of her time. And she's doing it at home, and she's doing it with 3 kids. And it's like, if a busy mom, so that's where the name of my business came from,
that.
the Busy Mom Method. It's not about just coaching moms. It's that if a busy mom can make it happen, anybody can. Busy mom, like, we've got a lot on our plates. We're running a household. We're taking care of kids. We're taking care of our husbands. We're taking care of us. But if we can do it, anybody can. And, just seeing Natasha's confidence grow. And so she finished her 12 weeks, and she got on the phone with me, and I'm like, okay, so where do we go? We're not done yet. And she said, I'm all in, a whole year. Let's go. And I told her, I said, if you can do this in 12 weeks, imagine what a year can do. Exactly. And, that's one thing I really like to level set with my clients and be realistic about, is I have clients who are in their 40s and 50s, and I'll say, how many years did it take you to get to this place of discomfort in your body? And remind them, it's not going to happen overnight. You have to be patient. But we're going to get you there. Exactly. And that's the thing, is like, with enough time, we can get anybody there, but we have to be realistic, because it's not a crash diet. It's not a quick fix. It's not a gimmick. It's about a lifestyle change. It's about healthy eating, prioritizing protein, building muscle. It's about longevity, and it's about being proud of yourself.
Exactly. But you can be proud of yourself right away.
Yes.
You can be proud of yourself. That'll change like immediately. Once you start.
And earlier you said you're a life coach. So I have a degree in psychology, and I am a certified life coach, because like you said, it's when we talk about like health, it's not just exercise, and it's not just nutrition. Health is what are we thinking in here? What are those soundtracks in our mind that we tell ourselves? I'm not good enough. I'll never get skinny. I'll never lose the weight. I'll never feel good about myself. I'll never be confident. I'll never look like her. It's bullshit. We got to throw those things out the window. We got to start saying the things we believe. And when people say, my mindset is bad, and it's like, then let's fix that.
My metabolism slowed down because I'm older.
Yeah, nobody's metabolism is broken. You just haven't spent enough time building muscle. We build muscle, your metabolism increases. And when we talk about the coaching, so in my program, I work on all sorts of things with my clients. We work on building powerful morning routines, proper evening routines, sleep quality, hydration. We talk about affirmations.
But you keep it simple.
Yeah. Oh, it's so simple. And it just flows. Every week we just add a little extra. And, when my clients are saying, like, I'm really struggling, it's like, well, what do you say to yourself when you wake up in the morning? Do you get up and you say, God, I'm thankful for another day. I'm thankful I can move my body. Or do you get up and you say, God, I'm still fat, and I'm going to get on that scale, and it's not going to go down. Well, it's like, well, what you think in here is what's going to happen. Exactly. We have to be very cognizant of the fact that our mindset really runs like where we're going to go and how successful we're going to be. So I'll tell people, like, they'll say, I had one person, she set a goal weight and she hit it, and then she couldn't get below it. And I asked her, I said, well, what's your new goal weight? You hit your goal weight. That was your goal weight for the last 3 years, and you finally got there.
I've arrived syndrome.
Yeah. So what I told her is, I was like, get a sticky note, write your new goal weight on there, and put it over the scale. And every day when you get on that scale, say, I'm thankful to weigh this much because of all the hard work I'm putting in. And her weight just keeps ticking down now. And, every time my clients hit a new goal or a new milestone, we celebrate that. But I say, but you're not done yet, because you told me these were all your goals. So let's start working on this next one. It's self-improvement. We're never done. You know, as much as I've never been overweight and I don't have some crazy before and after, you know, journey, what I'll say is I'm never not working on me. You know, every day I show up and I try and make myself better. I try and learn more. I try and be better. I try and be kinder. You know, I have on my whiteboard at home, it says, God, make me more like you and less like me, because I still have a long way to go. You know, I have a lot more to learn. I have a lot more to do. And every day I can get better, but so can my clients, you know, and I want to help them get there. I'm so serious about, like, you know, again, they don't know who I am.
Right.
But I'm on the other side of that phone waiting to cheer them on, to get them to those goals, to take them past those finish lines. And it's an honor for me to be able to do that. You know, I gave up my corporate job, and I remember the reason I did it is I saw all these men or all these women putting themselves on the back burner. And I came home and I told my husband, I want to quit my corporate job and I want to go back to coaching. He said, then do it. And I set a 2-year plan and I hit it in 4 months. And he's like, you need to quit your job. And I'm like, I know, but I was afraid. You know, I was afraid. And
everybody's afraid to start something now.
Yeah. And you know, for me, it was that. I was afraid to bet on myself. Yeah. And I did. And look where I am. I get to wake up. This is not a side hustle. This is not a secondary job for me. I get to wake up every morning and help these women achieve their goals. Okay. And that's beautiful. It's like what you guys do every day. You inspire people. You motivate people. You help them get better. That's what I get to do. Right. And I love it. And I believe in it. And I believe that God put me in this place to do this thing and help those people because they deserve it. He wants everyone to be happy and healthy. Okay. And to, you know, when I get to the end of my life, I want to have not a single bit of talent left. And I want to be able to tell God, I used everything you gave me. That's amazing. And I want everyone to do that.
That's good.
You know?
Well, very good. Incredible story. Thank you so much for being here on the show. Yeah. And if you're lost, if you feel like you don't know where to start, reach out to Ashley. She has the heart. She has that passion. She has the knowledge. She has all the tools necessary, and she really cares.
I do.
So, Ashley, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for getting vulnerable with me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for telling us. I think people really need to see that side to show that you have that heart, because there's so many people out there that are just, you know, chasing money, chasing, you know, all of these different things that don't matter, and you really do care. So, just want to thank you for being here.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Give me a hug. Cool.